Hi, and welcome to a product integration demo between Strapi and Conscia.ai. In this video, I'll show you how to create personalized digital experiences for customers using our integration between Strapi as a CMS and Conscia for orchestration and personalization. So let's get into it. For the showcase, we've created a sample web experience based on a CPG luxury brand. This brand runs frequent campaigns in the form of a landing page like you see here. Through this demo, I'll show you how we personalize the experience using a customer's context to orchestrate content from Strapi. This page is built using a series of components. Each component is tied to a content source, the majority of them being Strapi. I'll show you how two different experiences are generated by looking at the customer's context to source different content for each of the components on the page. The end result is the same, but with a personalized experience centered around a collaboration with the customer's favorite brand. Now, we'll start by taking a look at the default experience for this campaign page. You'll notice here on the right-hand side that there's a customer context box and it's currently empty. And so there's no context being passed on this page, and so this is basically the default experience. Now, the first component on the page is this announcements component, and currently it just has a generic welcome message. The next component on this page is the hero video. Going down the page, the subsequent components are a email subscription component. There's a couple of different tiles. And finally, there's a component for our stories, which currently shows a couple of blog articles related to summer, winter, and cycling. Now, I'll show you another experience. And again, this is the same page that we're calling, but what we're doing is we're simply passing in the context of the customer. So what we're doing here is we're actually passing in the email of the customer. And what that's doing is it's actually going against Conscia as a lightweight CDP and fetching the context of that customer and providing it to the DX engine where it can use that context to then return the right content. And here on the right-hand side, you can see that P Quill is our persona, and P Quill is a traveler, has an affinity for DJ Oasis, and is located in the US. With that context, all of the components on the page are updated accordingly. So here you can see that the announcement component now showcases a free shipping promo for the continental US. The hero video is now updated to showcase DJ Oasis. And as we go down the page, you'll notice that all of the tiles now have been updated to showcase customized content from Strapi. Okay. And coming down to the end where we have our stories, you can see that the blog articles that were previously recreational based are now updated to reflect things like style and sneaker customization and unboxing. Now, here's another example of personalizing the campaign page based on the customer's context. Again, in this case, we're passing in the customer's ID, and that ID is then going to fetch the customer context that you see in the top right-hand corner. And for this persona, this person is a fitness enthusiast and has a brand affinity with Adidas and is based out of the UK. Using that context, the DX engine returns content from Strapi, which is personalized using that context. So here in the announcement at the top, you can see that there's a 10% discount for every bank holiday. The hero video has been updated, and just coming down through the page, you can see that the tiles have then been updated to reflect the brand affinity. Okay. And likewise for our stories, you can see that where in the previous example, we had examples around sneaker styling, here we have stories around exercise and warming up and shoe size measuring. Okay, now let's take a look at how things are set up in Strapi and how we've set up things within the Experience Studio. For this demo, we've created a couple of Strapi collections: announcements, promos, stories, and tiles. These Strapi collections contain the content used by Conscia's DX engine to deliver the personalized experiences. With Strapi, where you have a beautiful, easy-to-use interface that's marketer-friendly, marketers can easily curate their content for consumption across the different channels. Now, we'll take a look at Conscia's Experience Studio, which is designed for marketers and business users and allows them to build experience rules for personalization. Within the Experience Studio, we're on the Experience Components page, and this is where we create and configure our components that source content from Strapi. There are many different types of components within the Strapi Conscia integration. There's static types, dynamic types, and A/B types. Let's take a look at one of the components. Now, within this component, we can see that this component type is of a static type. Within each component, you can basically define the connection that is being used, in this case Strapi, and which collection model it is being associated to. So this particular component is tied to the campaign promo collection within Strapi. Here I can define the fields within that collection that I want to search against, and I can include a display template that allows me to format what the record looks like when it is being looked up in Strapi. One important thing to note here is that content remains in Strapi. There is no lifting and shifting of content into Conscia. It remains within Strapi. Within the Conscia Experience Studio, components are comprised of a set of different experience rules. Let's take a look at one of the rules that defined the DJ Oasis experience that I showed you earlier. The experience rule in front of you has three different parts to it. The first part allows you to define the type of rule it is in terms of its name, its priority, and whether it is a default catch-all rule. It also gives you the ability to define a campaign code in case you want to roll up any of these analytics. And lastly, if this rule is an A/B test type, you can basically click this button here and it will activate that. Now, the second part of this rule is the trigger condition. And this trigger condition can be a start and end date, or it could be a real-time context evaluation. In this case, you can see that we have a real-time context where we're looking for a customer's brand affinity. And if that brand affinity equals DJ Oasis, this is what activates this experience rule. And here you can see all of the different customer contexts that we can basically trigger this rule against, such as whether they are part of a customer segment, a location, or even have conducted a search term. Now, once this rule is triggered, this is where the target experience comes into play. This target experience is basically looking up records within Strapi and delivering them as part of the end experience. Here we have a couple of different records with DJ Oasis, but what we can do is actually look for records within Strapi. And here you can see these are all different records contained within Strapi. Again, we're looking directly against Strapi and not lifting and shifting any of this data. Now, the rule I just showed you was what we refer to as a static component. And this static component allows you to pick specific records within Strapi. There's also a different type of component called a dynamic component. And dynamic components allow you to define a criteria that will return a set of different results from Strapi. The experience rule in front of you is part of a dynamic component type. This component is the one that generates the stories at the bottom of our page experience. Scrolling down to the trigger condition, you can see that the trigger condition acts in the same way, in the sense that it looks at a customer's context, and that is what is used to generate the following experience. Now, contrary to the experience that we just saw, this experience doesn't pick specific records within Strapi. What it does is it basically defines a criteria that searches records against Strapi. And so any records that match this criteria are then returned as part of this experience. So as records are inputted into Strapi over time and they match this criteria, they will automatically be returned as part of this experience. And here within this canvas, you can basically drag and drop different elements from the left-hand side onto the canvas and pick specific attributes of the collection type within Strapi. The Conscia Strapi integration supports one additional component type, which is the A/B component type. This A/B component type generates a different variant on the front end based on the rule defined in front of you. Now, within this experience rule, you can see that we've defined it as an A/B type. And what this does is it changes the target experience setup. And so here you can see that we have two different experience variants. The first is referred to as newsletter A, and the second is referred to as newsletter B. And what we're doing here is we've set a relative weight of 1:1. And so here it's a 50-50 split between who sees the first A/B variant and who sees the second A/B variant. And so obviously the first A/B variant is going to be this subscribe to the newsletter versus the second A/B variant is the stay in the know. One of the features of Conscia is the ability to collect data and visualize analytics. Here we see a sample analytics dashboard for a previous A/B test that was done for coffee lovers. As part of this analytics reporting, we can see that there are KPIs that have been generated using both the data collected by Conscia and external data. Here we see sample visualizations such as views, click-throughs, and revenues, as well as other breakdowns of analytics data that you would expect as part of an analytics report. With the integration between Conscia and Strapi, I hope you saw how content can be orchestrated from collection types in Strapi and used to deliver personalized experiences across your channels. Thanks again for watching, and don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions.